One of the things that has always impressed me most about our history as a church, our history as believers, has been the zeal of those first disciples of Christ. When we put it in today's terms, when we hear good news, we hear of an engagement or we hear of a new birth, we immediately want to tell other people. We even ask sometimes, is it okay if I tell people? That same kind of eagerness to spread good news, we must mimic like these first disciples. So overcome with joy at the resurrection, they literally hit the road to tell everyone they could. They went beyond the limits of their hometown. They went beyond the limits of their own nation at a time when travel was dangerous. And to move more than a few miles was considered risky. We find the disciples then in this joy, in this eagerness, seeking out opportunities in towns and people to tell them about the risen Christ. That is discipleship. That is the motivation we are called to have, a motivation rooted in the knowledge that the tomb was empty. Recently, I had an opportunity to be in the Holy Land and to pray at that empty tomb in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Jerusalem, being an ancient city, and Israel, being in a crossroads of history throughout its existence, is one of the most conquered and occupied places in the world. And as I prayed at that tomb, I thought of all of the empires and nations and rulers that had governed Jerusalem through its history, and how none of them remain. And that what does remain is that empty tomb and the faith of the pilgrims that go there to pray. In the thousands and in the millions, the very stones rubbed smooth from the feet of the people over the hundreds of years, thousands that go there to pray to God. That kind of zeal is what we are called to, a zeal based in love, based in eagerness to share good news. Now, this kind of zeal, though, is not only for those with the ability to travel, the means to do so, the health to do so. One of the most beautiful intuitions, I think, of our church is that St. Therese of Lisieux is patroness of the missions, a young woman who lived her whole life in a rural part of France behind cloister walls, never having herself been to those mission fields. So why is she patroness? Because in her prayer, in her care and her love for the spread of the gospel, she was united to those with the means and the health and the ability to travel. And so you and I then, whatever vocation we're called to in life, whatever abilities or disabilities we have, we're not hampered by them. In fact, they can become means of grace and opportunities to unite in prayer so that the good news is spread. As a priest, I have the extraordinary and privileged opportunity to speak to so many people about their faith lives and about what it is God may be calling them to do with their lives, whether marriage, priesthood, consecrated life. And it's a privilege and a joy to see people that are praying to our God about their lives and listening to His response. There are so many people out there that are thirsty for the Holy Spirit and are conforming their lives to Him. And it's a great joy and a great blessing for the church. These opportunities then belong to all of us, to be renewed in the Holy Spirit, to focus again on that empty tomb. The realization that we have a God that loves us so much he enters into our condition, knows that we suffer under sin and death, and confronts them and conquers them for us. Being at that empty tomb was one of the most powerful experiences of my life, and it reinforced for me the beauty, the love of our God, that we are never alone, never abandoned. One of the beautiful images I take from my trip to the Holy Land was being at the Jordan River, the site where Jesus himself was baptized. Geographically speaking, the Jordan River descends very rapidly into the Dead Sea, the lowest place on earth. What a fitting metaphor then, that our God loved us so much, he lowered himself into the very depths of our world to raise us to his beautiful kingdom of heaven.